Search and rescue efforts are ongoing in forested regions similar to the one where the remains were discovered. I had an emotionally charged conversation with the victim's sister, who resides out of state. She expressed a strong desire for her brother's remains to be returned to North Carolina. In April 2020, a hunter made a disturbing discovery while traversing the remote and rugged Sawtooth wilderness in northwest Idaho. The hunter encountered skeletal remains dispersed throughout a secluded valley. It was soon confirmed that these belonged to Todd Hofflander, a man who had vanished nearly a decade earlier. But that wasn't all. Nearby, the hunter uncovered Todd's belongings: a weathered backpack, rusting binoculars, an old torn sleeping bag, and, most interestingly, a corroded camera. Despite the camera's battered state, investigators managed to retrieve images from its memory card. One photo in particular was so chilling, so unexplainable, that it left everyone who saw it shaken to their core. This haunting tale began on September 25, 2010. Todd Hofflander, 39 years old at the time, had set out on what should have been a routine hunting trip in the Sawtooth wilderness. He wasn't alone. By his side was his close friend Jeff and his loyal black Labrador Ruby. Todd was not new to the outdoors. He was a seasoned outdoorsman who carefully prepared for every expedition. For this trip, he packed overnight camping gear, a .357 Magnum revolver for protection, and enough supplies to last several days. Their destination was Seven Devils Mountain, a forbidding peak named for its dangerous terrain and steep, jagged slopes. It was prime black-tailed deer season, and the plan was simple yet ambitious: a 4-day trek to hunt, camp, and soak in the jaw-dropping views of Hell's Canyon, one of the deepest gorges in North America. Todd and Jeff were eager to bag a prize buck while basking in the serenity of the wilderness. But the wilderness is as unpredictable as it is beautiful. By the third day, Todd began to experience severe knee pain. The aches slowed their progress and raised concerns about whether they could complete their journey on time. Jeff, trying to make the best of the situation, suggested they rest in a relatively flat area where Todd could recover while Jeff continued toward their destination. Jeff promised to return later, and to ensure Todd's safety, he even called his father Steve to join him for the return leg of the trip. The plan seemed sound enough. Todd would stay put while Jeff and his father completed the trek and came back for him. But when Jeff and Steve returned to the meeting spot on September 28th, Todd was gone. There was no sign of him, no tracks, no note, no indication of where he might have gone. Only Ruby, his loyal dog, was found wandering the area, seemingly unharmed but clearly distressed. What should have been a short detour turned into the beginning of a decade-long mystery. As the days stretched into weeks, search teams scoured the wilderness, but no trace of Todd was ever found. It was as if the forest had swallowed him whole. Over the years, numerous theories popped up. Had he fallen victim to the dangerous terrain, encountered a wild animal, or was something far more sinister at play? These questions lingered unanswered until that fateful discovery in 2020, when the hunter found the remains and, perhaps more importantly, Todd's camera. The search for Todd quickly escalated into a full-blown rescue operation. Worried sick about his safety, Jeff wasted no time reporting Todd's disappearance to the authorities. The response was immediate. The police launched a massive search across the sprawling Sawtooth wilderness. Helicopters buzzed over the treetops, scanning the rugged terrain from above, while highly trained search dogs combed the forest floor. The search teams ventured deep into the steep valleys, navigating dangerous cliffs and dense thickets, but no trace of Todd was found. Not a footprint, not a clue. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. As the investigation into Todd's disappearance progressed without yielding any concrete clues, suspicion began to fall upon Jeff. The sheriff's office summoned Jeff for questioning in hopes of obtaining pertinent information. To ensure a thorough examination, Jeff underwent a polygraph test. However, the results proved inconclusive and, to the investigator's surprise, indicated deception. This development raised serious concerns about Jeff's potential involvement and cast doubt on his claims of innocence. Despite maintaining his denial of any wrongdoing, Jeff faced mounting skepticism from both the investigative team and the community at large. His father, Steve, remained staunchly supportive, vehemently defending his son's innocence. In a display of intense frustration, Steve confronted the authorities, demanding that they redirect their efforts and cease accusing his son. However, his impassioned pleas failed to dispel the growing suspicions surrounding Jeff's role in Todd's disappearance. Meanwhile, the investigation turned to Todd's family. The sheriff interviewed Todd's wife, Julie, hoping for any insight that might steer the search in a new direction. But what Julie shared only complicated matters further. She painted an unsettling picture of Jeff, describing him as unreliable, hot-headed, and even aggressive at times. Julie revealed that Jeff often teased Todd, poking fun at him in ways that bordered on cruelty. He had a history of breaking promises and even mistreating his own pet dog. Worse still, Julie claimed Jeff had made inappropriate jokes and comments toward her on more than one occasion. It was a troubling character assessment, but the police were cautious. While these details painted Jeff in a bad light, they weren't enough to directly tie him to Todd's disappearance. Just as the case seemed to hit a dead end, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. The sheriff's office received a mysterious phone call. A couple hiking in the mountains had come across a black Labrador wandering the wilderness. The dog seemed lost but friendly, and something about her struck a chord. When they returned to town, they spotted a missing dog poster and immediately called the authorities. It was Ruby, Todd's loyal companion. When Todd's family saw her, they confirmed it without hesitation. This was their Ruby. Aside from being a little dehydrated, she was remarkably healthy for a dog that had been lost in the wild for days. But something was odd. Ruby's collar and dog pack were missing. It was as if someone, or something, had removed them. The discovery of Ruby reignited hope. If she had survived, perhaps Todd had too. The police theorized that he might still be trapped somewhere in the valley, injured but alive. Determined to use Ruby as their guide, the search team brought her back to the rugged mountain range, hoping her instincts would lead them to Todd. But what they encountered instead was deeply unsettling. Ruby's demeanor changed the moment her paws touched the forest floor. She barked incessantly, her tail tucked tightly between her legs, trembling as if she were gripped by an unseen terror. At times she whimpered and cowered, refusing to move forward. It was as though she could sense something ominous lingering in the shadows of the mountains, something that filled her with dread. Undeterred, the authorities pressed forward. On October 6, they launched yet another large-scale search operation in the area where Ruby had been found. Search teams scoured the dense forests and steep cliffsides, methodically combing through every possible location Todd might have ventured into. Helicopters crisscrossed the skies while search dogs sniffed out potential trails below. Julie, desperate for answers, even brought in Lynn May, a clairvoyant from California, to assist in the search. Lynn's vision was chilling. She claimed Todd had been killed by a tall man and buried at the base of a mountain near Seven Devils. Skeptical but desperate, the authorities followed her lead, dispatching 7 teams with search dogs to the location Lynn described. The teams worked tirelessly, driven by the hope of finally uncovering the truth. But despite their best efforts, the search ended in frustration and heartbreak. No new clues emerged, and Lynn's vision, like so many other leads, turned out to be a dead end. By October 21, the case hit an agonizing dead end. Exhausted and with no evidence to justify continuing, the authorities made the difficult decision to call off the search. The official conclusion was that Todd Hofflander's disappearance was unsolvable, and the case was closed. His family was left with a void of unanswered questions, and the faint, lingering hope that someday, somehow, the mountains would reveal their secrets. It wasn't until nearly a decade later, in April 2020, that fate intervened in the most chilling way imaginable. A hunter venturing into the untamed wilderness near the Bernard River mouth came across a gruesome discovery. Scattered among the underbrush was a set of human bones. The scene was eerily quiet, save for the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, as if the forest itself had been holding its breath for 10 long years. When the remains were turned over to the authorities, DNA testing soon confirmed what Todd's family had dreaded to hear. The bones belonged to Todd Hofflander, the man who had vanished without a trace so many years ago. Nearby, the hunter had also found remnants of Todd's belongings, a weathered backpack, corroded binoculars, and a battered camera. But there was one thing missing: Todd's .357 Magnum revolver. The camera, damaged by years of exposure to the elements, still contained a memory card that authorities managed to recover. The images it held were degraded but intact enough to reveal snippets of Todd's final days. One photo in particular sent a collective chill down the spines of everyone who saw it. It was grainy and unfocused, yet unmistakably sinister. A shadowy, hulking figure lurking among the trees, its proportions far too large to be human. With Todd's remains exposed to the harsh wilderness for so long, usable evidence was scarce. Forensic experts could determine little beyond the fact that his death had been tragic and untimely. Lacking concrete answers, the authorities ultimately ruled Todd's death as an accidental disappearance. But for those who saw that photo, a nagging question remained. Was Todd truly alone in those mountains? As the case closed once again, whispers began to circulate among locals. Stories of the Sawtooth wilderness being home to something otherworldly, a towering, elusive creature resurfaced with fervor. To Todd's loved ones, however, one thing was clear. The mountains had kept their secrets well, and whatever Todd encountered out there would remain one of nature's darkest mysteries. The mystery that won't go away. Todd Hofflander's disappearance and the discovery of his remains 10 years later still leave everyone scratching their heads. The questions surrounding what happened to him in the wilderness have turned into a puzzle that people can't stop thinking about. From online forums to true crime groups, everyone is trying to figure out the strange details of his case. Let's break down some of the biggest mysteries. One of the most puzzling elements of the case is Todd's dog Ruby. When she was found, she was surprisingly healthy, apart from being a little dehydrated. For a dog raised in a household, surviving alone in the wild for so long seems almost impossible. The wilderness is home to cougars, wolves, and bears, all of which could have posed a danger to her. Yet Ruby managed to survive, raising questions about whether someone or something might have been helping her. Adding to the mystery was the fact that her collar and dog pack were missing. Who took them off, and why? Was it Todd trying to free her to increase her chances of survival? Or was there someone else involved in removing her gear? These unanswered questions only add to the mystery surrounding Ruby's role in the story. Then there's the matter of Todd's missing revolver. As an experienced outdoorsman, Todd would have known the importance of carrying a gun, especially in a remote area where predators could strike at any moment. His revolver wasn't just a tool, it was a lifeline. Yet when his belongings were found near his remains, the gun was nowhere to be seen. His backpack, binoculars, and camera were all accounted for, but the revolver had vanished. Did Todd lose it during his journey, or was it taken by someone else? Was it possibly used in an act of self-defense, or something more sinister? The absence of the revolver is a significant piece of the puzzle that is yet to be explained. Perhaps the biggest mystery of all is why Todd left the meeting point in the first place. When his knee injury flared up, staying put seemed like the safest and smartest option. He had enough food, water, and a sleeping bag to wait for Jeff to return with help. Leaving the spot only made things more dangerous for him, especially with his injury slowing him down. So why did he decide to move? Did something frighten him enough to make him abandon the area? Or was he chasing after something or someone he thought could help? The decision to leave the meeting point doesn't make much sense, and it's one of the most frustrating parts of this case. If Todd had stayed where he was, his chances of survival might have been much higher. What's even stranger is where his remains were eventually found. Todd's bones were discovered near the mouth of the Bernard River, a location that was dozens of miles away from the agreed-upon meeting point. For someone with an injured knee, making such a journey seems almost impossible. The rough terrain alone would have been a challenge, let alone the added difficulty of moving with an injury. This raises even more questions. Did Todd somehow manage to push through the pain and make the trek himself, or was he moved there by someone or something after his death? Without more evidence, it's hard to say for sure. The sheer distance between where he was last seen and where his remains were found is a puzzling detail that continues to confuse investigators and armchair detectives alike. How did Ruby survive for so long on her own? What happened to Todd's revolver? Why did he leave the meeting point, and how did he end up so far away from it? The mystery remains unsolved, leaving plenty of room for theories. Some believe it was a tragic accident, while others think there might be a more sinister explanation lurking in the shadows. The remote mountains of the Sawtooth wilderness hold their secrets tightly, and Todd's story is a haunting reminder of just how little we understand about what happens when someone goes missing in such a vast and unforgiving place. As much as investigators and loved ones have tried to piece together what happened, the answers remain just out of reach. Until those answers are found, Todd Hofflander's disappearance will remain one of the most confusing and heartbreaking mysteries to come out of the wild. What really happened? The first theory is an accidental shooting cover-up. Some believe that Todd may have been accidentally shot by Jeff or his father during their trip. Out of panic and fear of legal repercussions, they might have decided to transport Todd's body miles away to stage a fake scene. The area where his remains were eventually found is known for its dense vegetation, making it difficult for search helicopters or teams to spot anything from above. If this theory holds weight, it could explain certain puzzling details. For instance, Todd may have removed his dog Ruby's collar and backpack himself, possibly to make her more comfortable before the tragic incident. Ruby, frightened by the sudden and traumatic events, could have run off later to be found unharmed. The missing revolver adds further mystery. Perhaps it was misplaced during the transportation of Todd's body, or deliberately hidden to conceal evidence. Another possibility points to animal threats. This theory suggests that Todd might have left the agreed-upon campsite after spotting signs of predators such as cougars or wolves in the area. As an experienced outdoorsman, Todd would have known the dangers of staying in a spot where animals might be lurking. In an attempt to find a safer location, he might have moved away, only to face another tragedy. It's also worth noting that the region near Devil's Mountain is notorious for its unstable rock formations, which are prone to sudden landslides. One theory proposes that Todd could have been struck by falling rocks while moving through the rough terrain, leading to his untimely death. His dog Ruby might have survived by scavenging food from Todd's backpack, which was found near his remains. The Grassman connection. One of the most mysterious theories about Hofflander's death involves the possibility of a supernatural encounter. This idea suggests that Todd may have been stalked and killed by a cryptid-like creature, something not officially recognized by science, but often reported in folklore and eyewitness accounts. This theory gained traction after investigators examined Todd's damaged camera. Among the scenic photos he had taken during his trip, there was one image that stood out. It appeared to be hastily taken, blurry and unsettling. In this eerie photo, Todd seemed to have captured the presence of something sinister watching him. The image's urgency hinted at a moment of panic, as if Todd was trying to document whatever was near him before it was too late. Disturbingly, this was the last photo on his camera. Some believe that Todd may have been attacked immediately after snapping this image. The location where his remains were found, a lush vegetated area near a water source, could potentially support the existence of large, unknown creatures. What makes this theory even more chilling is the immense strength it would have taken to move Todd's body such a great distance, especially given his nearly 6-foot stature. The blurry figure in the photo has led some to speculate that Todd may have encountered a creature resembling the Grassman, a cryptid often compared to Bigfoot. Reports of the Grassman have come from several U.S. states, with witnesses describing it as a large, hairy humanoid being, standing between 7 and 8 feet tall and weighing an estimated 500 pounds. The Grassman is said to be covered in shaggy grass-like fur that helps it blend into its surroundings. It is described as nocturnal, with glowing eyes that pierce through the darkness and loud, echoing roars that can send chills down anyone's spine. Witnesses often report a foul odor accompanying sightings, adding to the creature's unsettling presence. Some accounts even suggest that Grassmen are hostile, attacking dogs or people who wander alone at night in remote areas. Could Todd have fallen victim to such a creature? If so, it might explain why Ruby was found trembling and behaving strangely when search teams brought her back to the area. Dogs are known to sense danger, and Ruby's reaction could have been fear of the same cryptid that might have harmed Todd. A haunting end, Todd's death, may have involved a tall figure. Perhaps this was indeed the elusive Grassman. If we try to imagine Todd's situation in those final moments, the sheer fear he must have experienced becomes overwhelming. In moments of extreme terror, the ability to think or act rationally often disappears. Todd's decision to take a photo, despite his panic, shows incredible courage. It's possible he either forgot about his gun in the chaos or simply didn't have the time to use it before the attack occurred. Of course, this interpretation isn't the only possibility. Some argue that the creature in the photo could have been something more ordinary, like a bear standing on its hind legs. But without clear evidence, the true nature of the figure remains unknown. The circumstances surrounding Todd Hofflander's unfortunate demise may remain perpetually shrouded in uncertainty. Following the incident, criticism was directed at Jeff for abandoning Todd in such a perilous wilderness setting. Experts have emphasized the inherent dangers of being injured and isolated in the wild, particularly in a challenging environment like Devil's Mountain, suggesting it is often fatal. While Jeff may not bear direct responsibility for Todd's death, his decision to separate from his companion has significantly tarnished his involvement in the tragic event. Todd was remembered by his wife as a compassionate and altruistic individual who consistently extended assistance to those in need. Despite a friendship characterized by an imbalance of reciprocity, with Jeff frequently deriding Todd, Todd still agreed to accompany him on an expedition to Devil's Mountain in pursuit of black-tailed deer. Sadly, the mountain proved as treacherous as its name implied for Todd. The question now is whether Jeff will carry the guilt of abandoning Todd for the rest of his life. Could things have ended differently if they had stayed together? That question, much like the mystery of the tall figure in Todd's photo, lingers in the air, unanswered.